Can everyone hear me okay? I'm speaking through my phone. Yeah?
We can hear you all right. Everything is fine.
Great. Thanks, Eleni. Thank you, Isaac and Kamfai. That was very interesting. Kia ora koutou, ngā mihi o te rā, or from Wellington to Whanganui Tara, Aotearoa, New Zealand. I am speaking to you from across the ditch for most of you, I think, and 3 hours ahead. And as a settler colonial, a Pākehā, that is, I am on the land of 3 tribes least known, Ngāti Toa, Taranaki Whānui, and Te Aotearoa. And as very much we heard earlier, it's important to acknowledge that commoning is a more complex practice in a settler colonial context. The project I wanted to speak to you about today is one I've just finished with. I'm very much a pracademic, as they call it, someone who works in the commons but is writing about it at the same time. And this project, we've left the logos. Oh, there's a bit of an echo on the line. Yeah, thanks. We've left the logos in this project because we've just presented back to the key sponsors of the project a day ago, and I thought we'd kind of keep this continuity of how we present to other stakeholders as well as to our academic colleagues. So the project has been a 3-month disaster response and preparation in community. Often emergency is considered to be something people do alone. They're told to prepare their backpacks. In the case of New Zealand, we have earthquakes. People are told to pack their backpacks and run up the hill, or to ensure they have enough food for the next couple of weeks for their families. But we are working in this area of commoning to generate a community preparedness to multiple crises. Next slide, thank you. This has come from, go back to the one before. Thanks, Eleni. This, just to say, there's a context for the Critical Signals project, which was a 3-month project in Wellington City. It has been this disaster theatre work I've been working on since 2024, highlighting the tensions between official command and control, emergency management approaches, and this community-led mutual aid, suggesting that we both have value, but we need to prepare before the emergency or disaster rather than afterwards. And we use the term disaster with an awareness that's very much a social and human construct, that a flooded river is really only a disaster if you've built, say, a permanent settlement too close to the river. A flooded river can be also a cleansing experience if it is in a remote part of the world. So essentially, this Critical Signals came from this idea that we see disaster and emergency as an opportunity to heighten commoning. Next slide, thanks. So the project we just finished is about part lab, part civil defence rethink, part neighbourhood commons. And the idea was that we would look at both the practical and kind of visionary and intelligent responses to an era of multiple collapses. And we're driven by a vacancy of what we consider to be kind of public or common discourse on what we're supposed to be doing in the face of multiple climate concerns and political instabilities and AI and tech enclosures. And I say in Wellington's case, earthquake and tsunami risks. And then we have a group of activists, academics and artists who also have some solutions to preparation around digital and data sovereignty, kai, which is food and seed sovereignty and food security generally. So the project operated for 3 months in an empty building, funded by Goethe Institute primarily, and then by multiple universities. Next slide, thanks. Just to say, I'm not an expert in the data sovereignty or in food sovereignty, but I have more experience in transforming spaces from empty sites to welcoming environments. My colleagues Jessica Hutchings and Ira Bailey, who are Indigenous food experts, were leading that theme, and Julian Oliver, some of you may know as an artist who's worked in Berlin many years, was leading the kind of data sovereignty. But yeah, we created together, I think, a relatively rapid commons experience. Next slide. The space we chose was a space we actually paid for. I have done a lot of work in empty buildings, and this time we decided to actually pay the landlord because he is an example of how a landlord, someone can hold property in this capitalist system and be an artist in partnership. Ash has contributed to a lot of projects in Wellington and around the country, actually in Whangarei, where he comes from. And Ash decided to rent us this building for a relatively cheap rate, but we paid for it because we had funding from institutions of Goethe and Monash, Victoria, Massey universities, and Te Punaha Matatini, which is another university collaboration. Next slide. So the project, I guess I've been asking on reflection after 3 months. This is the series of events that we got put on. We presented together. One of the questions I've been holding is what are the kind of material spatial conditions in the process of generating trust with strangers, especially in rapid times. I mean, most of the projects I've worked on so far have been between 5 and 10 years. This project, say 3 months. So how do you build trust rapidly? And so I've highlighted a few things that I think really assisted us in the process of making a rapid commons. Just-in-time programming means that some of the institutions found it quite a struggle to suddenly say that they would see that we'd put something on and they didn't have time to promote it. But if we promoted something on the website and we had a following, people showed up, and so that allowed us to plug people in when they offered themselves to us. So the first month we knew perhaps the week before, but the second and third months really grew over time. Next slide. Similarly, the core team is on the left, but all these collaborators on the right really came through the course of the project. And we loved their offers, and slowly, bit by bit, they joined us, and sometimes we knew them in advance, but many of them came to us as on the course of the project. Next slide. The workshops and talks and dinners, they range from discussion about this Meshtastic platform, which is a post-internet mesh network, which we're using in case of internet outage or Wi-Fi loss. Discussions about insurance and the retreat of private insurance companies in the face of rapid climate change, about techno-determinism and the enclosure of IP by AI forces, food and seed sovereignty, as I've discussed, and common resources in the city. Like, where are the resources that we can look to if we were suddenly faced with having to rely on what was actually in the CBD? Next slide. Coming from an architectural background, I'm really interested in how the space itself operated. It was the 3 months of winter, very, very wet and cold, as Wellington tends to be. And the space acted it was warm, and you can see the earthquake strengthening in the building made it feel secure. And it was small enough to make even a group of 10 feel cozy, but it could also stretch to 40 or 50 people. So it was a nice size. And the wall that Misa is standing in front of right here, I think you can see in the next slide, it presented a kind of, it's a cozy cave. So on the next slide, you see that the threshold, go to the next slide, thanks. The threshold was like a space that you entered first, and we were very keen to add an artistic dialogue with the wider themes. And it started with the work of Misa Azimi's Ghosts, which was a futuristic soundscape, and then it ended over the course of the 3 months, different videos went on, and we had the work by Monash University group led by Jackie Alexander called Sensing the Quarry, imagining a post-human world 5,000 years on. Next slide. The project also really was attempting to be a bit thought leadership. That's Julian Oliver on the left with Catherine Dyer speaking to a podcast, quite a popular podcast in New Zealand called The Hoon, and they were speaking about data centres and energy and the effect on climate. So we attempted to engage with the wider mainstream as well as with the those who turned up in the academic community. The next couple of slides are some responses that really came spontaneously to us. People walked in and just understood this idea that this was a place to feel safe and to discuss potential catastrophes, personal, political, environmental. I like this bottom right. On a spontaneous drop-in, you might find a local politician, a geologist, an urban planner, chef, an AI developer, and an internet travel editor sharing homemade soup that volunteers brought in. And it felt there was a coziness that generated over the course of the time. Next slide. The idea of the space giving the ability for the hard and radical and deep ideas to live safely in the open, I think was also noticed. We didn't have a lot of people from government showing up, but you certainly heard that people knew about it. So there's some reflections on how can we do this again in a way where the people writing policy and influencing decision making might feel safer to come. But it certainly brought a strong group of actors together who were mostly paid minimal, but paid minimally, but were there on their own terms. Next slide. This idea, which is also very true to the Commons idea, is that the users, as if you like, become producers of knowledge. So the audience, as it were very much invited into being part of the project. And this idea of mana upheld is a term meaning people were respected for showing interest and being part of the contribution, as well as listening to some more expertise. So next year, and the next slide, we are looking at doing it again. And I guess this is kind of like an open call. We would like to try and to do this project again with the group of people that we started with this year, but also they add into different cities. So we've had requests from Auckland, from Adelaide, actually, from Melbourne, Toronto, Brussels, because people couldn't see the need for a local place to discuss and actually be face-to-face and not entirely online. Next slide. Thanks. So just coming back to commenting, I just want to acknowledge that these were from all the years of practicing. I think these are key aspects of why it succeeded, was about having these thresholds, understanding limits on time and limits on space, understanding that we should consciously connect with the people who are holding the space together. Once a week, we had big project meetings, but we also did regular stand-ups. Institutions, as I say, need longer time frames and planning, but the just-in-time programming worked for our community members. Finishing well within the relationships of the group. We yesterday played a happy money story game. I'd never done it before, but it was essentially about people outlining how much they needed, if they had any needs, and we had a certain amount of money left over, and how that could be distributed amongst us. And that was a really beautiful telling exercise. And as I say, the permeability of our practice is intentionally to allow for feedback and to keep planning for 2026. So the final slide just says, repeats that we're looking to do this again, and keen to join with anyone who wants to talk about how we might reproduce this making a local version of this in a place near you. I hope that's useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
Okay.